afterwards so you can look back over it. Secondly, I'm now going to share my screen. Surprisingly, you may see, I'm needing to find out where the new button is. Microsoft had just released a big update for Teams. You have to manually turn it on at the minute. It will come automatically, but it has done a few cool things, like now we've got the toolbar up here rather than floating in the middle. It's a lot cleaner. Allegedly, it now goes 7:7, so 49 like Zoom, but also it's got this new theatre style, so everybody's picture gets put into a room. So it seems really good, and they're going to bring it out for everyone soon, and it will be standard, but at the minute you have to turn it on. I got it in my tenancy yesterday and this tenancy this morning. I'd love to spend more time on that, but we don't have much time because we're going to look at Automate. So you can see my screen here. Let me explain what Automate is. It used to be called Microsoft Flow. Last year they changed it to Power Automate. It's part of the Power family. So Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps. It's kind of part of the dynamic CRM system as well. So it's all about business flow, business development. Now, you may have been used to things like this before. You may use other apps that do similar things. Something triggers something to happen and it happens automatically. The way I easily compare it is something like rules on Outlook. You can put an out of office on. That's a rule. Once an email hits your inbox, it sends out. You can have two different rules, one that goes internally, one that goes externally. That's what Power Automate is. However, with Power Automate, it not only deals with your emails, it deals with your tasks, it deals with your people, it deals with your calendars, but it also deals with every other part of the Microsoft platform. So whether you need to automate Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Forms, Microsoft SharePoint, Word, Excel, emails, and not only that, as you can see on my screen here, these are all the business Microsoft ones that it does. It also automates things, anything else that you can sign into that you can manually set your own up with APIs, but we're not even going to go there. But it actually connects with so many different net providers of different connectors, and we'll show those in a minute. When you come on to Microsoft homepage, when you go to it, Power Automate will be on your list of things that you've got. If not, drop it down onto all apps and you will see it under Power Automate. There is a small chance that in your organization it may be turned off for you. You can even sign up for a free trial before you go any further. It is part of Microsoft 365. However, certain features of it are premium, so therefore take an extra charge. Everything I show you in this video is no extra charge from Microsoft. It's all part of your 365. It's once you go to the premium features, then you have to have a separate license and an additional license for it. We're going to try to jump through 3 different automates today, just to show you the power of what it can do. One of the automatic templates and a couple that I've previously built so that you can actually see them going, but I will show you what they do. When you come to the Power Automate page, you come to Home, and we'll see this in a minute about approvals. We can watch a quick video, we've got action items, we can create, and there's different types of ones that we can create. But let's have a quick look at the templates. These are the ones that Microsoft have said are used quite regularly by people. So we've got all flows, so they still mix in between it. You can save all of your email attachments straight to OneDrive for Business. You can get a push notification to your mobile once you receive an email from your boss. These are all templates, and it tells you how many times people have used them. Request a file. One of the ones we're going to do today is all about approval processes. You can create a task and planner, but not only that. You can work with things like remote work. So in and out of your organization, you can work with approvals. We've got button ones to work from your mobile phone or from Power Apps. You've got Visio, you've got data collection ones. So this is Microsoft Forms, but it also works with Google. It also works with Dropbox. So if you've got a Dropbox account and you want it moved across, you can say anytime something arrives in Dropbox, please copy it across to my OneDrive. So you've got all of these templates that you can use. And then you can create your own as well. So I'm just showing you through the templates. Even for example, social media, you can actually share your new Instagram photos with Twitter. So anything you can sign into, Microsoft can take that information and work on your behalf. So let's have a quick look. Under my flows, I've got the ones that I've created recently in this test account. And also at the end, I'll explain in a few scenarios of how we have actually set up flows for people. We've got an approval one, which we'll check in a minute. This is one of the Microsoft default ones, templates. I've got these two here, which we will talk about shortly. If I go to new, I can create from a template, which is useful. If you've got Visio and you set things up as a business processor, you can do that. The ones we're going to talk about this morning mostly, and then I'll mention these at the end, are automated, instant, or scheduled. So the first one I'm just going to look at is create from template. I will show you which template I used, and then I will show you it working. So what we've got here is you can search your template as well. So you can search for the word email, for example. And one of the best ways of working with this is to just play around with it. What I actually did yesterday was I set one up last night just to test, and I used a template which was create a task when an email is flagged. So let me show you that working. I'll go across to my email. This is an approval that Andy sent with me in a minute. I'm going to flag it. Now, I kind of don't necessarily think that this is the best process, because once you flag it, it goes into your to-do list anyway. However, if I go to to-do and I look in here, in a few seconds, it will actually show me that it's actually processed that. Let's go back to the flows, see that it runs, and I'll show you what it's doing. It's a very simple one from Microsoft. Create a task when an email is flagged. We click in here. It shows me that it's done it once. It hasn't done the second time yet. I can resort that and see what happens. However, let me show you the editing of it, because this is the important bit to show how simple it is. It says when an email is flagged and it asks you in your inbox, you can go for a specific folder. And this is how easy it is to actually work on. You can actually filter it and do lots of other things, to, CC, to, from. So you can actually go down the whole list. Create a task. So create the body, put it in a folder if you wanted to, put in a due date if you wanted to, put in a reminder time if you wanted to, whether it's started, not started. And that process is a template. I used Microsoft's own template. I didn't have to think of that by scratch. I didn't have to actually set that all up. So there's lots of ones that you can start from scratch and start. So I'm not sure why that did it 50 minutes ago. It doesn't do it now. I'd have to check that, so I'm not going to spend time on it now. But let me show you how simple that would be to create. So we go for one of these here. So it was the top picks. We'll do the email and tasks. If we do email and tasks, it could do to planner, it can do to the new to-do, it can do an Office 365. It says it's going to use these two things. It's going to make my connections for me. It's going to connect to these two, create a flow, and this will default set it all up. Done. Automatically done. And that's when you can go in and you can edit it. You can also delete it. You can turn it on or off. You can see all the history of the flows here. Did it work? Did it not work? Did you cancel it? You can send a copy and you can share it within your organization so multiple people can use it. Now, let's look at the next one that I want to do, because that's a simple one. It's really simple. It's one of their templates. I want to look at this approval process. Now, what I've done here is I've done an approval on a document library on SharePoint. So let's have a look in here. This again, there's a default process from Microsoft that you can use for approvals, but we built one where we wanted to do a little bit more work on it. It was for a client to show them what they could do. And this actually sets an approval process, and it uses Microsoft approvals, and it takes any document loaded to a folder and it sends an approval to an individual manager. And these are all the settings. And there's the approval, and then it's got things like switch, which is like an if statement and things like that in it. All of these are default settings from Microsoft. Some of the templates, again, from Microsoft, I'll open this in a new window instead of going back and forward, have this sort of basic approval process, and you can then add to it. So if you've got an approval process and you think, actually, I need to add to it, you can add in extra steps. While that's loading, there's me adding in an extra step. Add an action or add another branch. So at any stage, I can add in extra steps. But here we go. Add an approval when a new item is added to SharePoint. Request manager approval for a selected file. Send form responses for approval. Start approval for new documents and notify via Teams. Request a manager approval for a selected item. So we could choose any of those. Let's just choose that. I'm going to start a new template from them. It uses this. It uses SharePoint, uses approvals, uses 365, and it uses your email. So all of that, I have to sign into that for 365 users. Give me a second. It's done. It'll ask you to sign in if you haven't signed in before. And you can do multiple accounts then. So you could sign into, for example, a shared mailbox. You could sign into something else. But here we go. When a new item is created, it automatically has all of this set up. Start an approval. There's a condition. If it's approved, then do this. If not, then do that. But let me show you. I would just choose a list from my SharePoint list. And then I would choose a list name. So if I went for new test lists, and then I would say that on who am I assigning it to? And I can actually type in an email address here, and that would be then setting up. It is as simple as this to use one of their templates. What happens if it's rejected? What happens? Get a profile. So you can expand the condition when the response is equal to approve. Simple enough. If it is equal to approve, send an email. If it's not equal to approve, send a different email. This here is if this will be running, we'll configure run after. So this will be only run in certain circumstances. If it doesn't work, then it'll come back to you. So it didn't, you can always put this in. If it doesn't work, please let me know. And that's what this has done. If something fails in the approval process, please come back to me. And even here, we've got things like we can format the email. We can put it into code, so you can HTML it. And you can set who it comes from. You can put attachments on it. You can send from. You can copy. You can blind carbon copy, and you can even put your importance in. So, not to take any more time on it with that one, because that's the template. This is my lovely site. I'm going into my document library here. I'm going to upload 3 files. Those 3 files are going to go to my lovely glamorous assistant, Andy. He did ask that I say the word glamorous in there. And Andy is going to look at these files, and he's going to decide whether to approve them or not. Now, obviously, he's going to move this quickly because we're doing in a test environment today, but I've got 1 for rejection, 1 for pending, and 1 for approval. So it uploads those 3 files, and immediately they're all checked out. So nobody can use them until they're checked in. If I refresh that, very quickly, it should have changed them in a second, and it will show them as pending. And I can see here if these are actually running. Now, this is decided for some unknown reason to not like what I'm doing this morning. Now we're in test mode. And I'm not sure why. So Andy's probably not going to get those. And I really don't know why. He got one about 20 minutes ago, and I will show you what happened with it. So we got one. So here we go. It's meant to go into those document libraries. Come back out here. Oh, they're running now. It took a second for Microsoft to grab hold of them. So now it's found those 3 files, and it's sending emails to Andy. So Andy's now working furiously because he's just checking his emails to send me replies back. This site here shows them all as pending. So one of the things I did was mark them as pending immediately. So that was the first thing I asked to do. Change the sign-off status to pending. One of the other things that I did is we've made a list of the documents. So if you've got, say, for example, a template library or a policy library. Now in here, those are marked now, and they're here. That one was the one that was approved by Andy. All 3 of these are pending. Actually, Andy's just approved this one. So I should then get in a minute an email because I already see that he has approved it. So if I refresh this, one of these will be complete or completing, succeeded. So that's the one that approved. Let's look at that while he's working on the other 2. In here, it tells me what it's done, each step of the process. So when a new document was uploaded, it tells me what document was uploaded. I can look at this, and this is also how you check if things are wrong. Added, there's a status. Instead of showing you this, let me run you through the actual process, and then we'll come to the last one as well. I'm now getting emails saying which ones are approved, which ones are rejected, and which ones are still pending. So this here is a process called when something is uploaded to the document library. That's when a new item is added. Microsoft had templates for all of these. This is an automatic one. Then it says change the item. So this is make a change to the item. So it looks at all the columns, and you decide to add columns in. Then get the details of it, because we want to send that information through. We set up an approved variable, a comments variable, creates a new item in a list. So it does that. Starts and waits for an approval. So we do that. Approve, reject, or pending goes through. Then it tells me whether it's been approved or not. And then once we know it's approved, it does a few steps. If it's approved, it updates it to approved. It gets the details of the file. It checks the file in, and it updates the file. And then it sends an email confirming the approval. The same with reject and the same with pending. So if I go back to this document library, in here we would see that we've got approved, pending still, and we may have one that has been rejected. And if it's rejected, I asked it to go into this document library. So the one that Andy had rejected, we've moved across here, document for rejection. So what we've managed to do is we've managed a process where 3 documents have been uploaded. All 3 of them have been sent for approval. One of them's been rejected, one of them's been approved, and one of them's been not. We've made it more complex and more complicated than the Microsoft. Rich, are you specifically looking control, or was that by accident? What we've done is we've managed to get those 3 documents through. We've made it more complex in the template, but as you see, we just do steps in it. And each of those steps allows me to do things. So for each of those steps, for example, if I wanted to do another step to do with the document, I can look in here, and this is how simple it is to use these. There's the control ones. The controls are things like if, apply to each, do until. Switch means you've got multiple conditions, so you don't have to do multiple ifs, and you can finish it. If I want to do a different one, which is not a control one, I can do, for example, in here when I do actions, I can type in the word SharePoint. Or OneDrive or Office. But if I choose SharePoint, these are all the actions that I can do with the SharePoint. So I could copy the folder, I could create a file, I can create an item. That's what I've done above, to create a new item in a list. Now, I could have left these at create item, but I always rename them. Because any type of programming, you want to rename it to make it more obvious of what it is. You can look at the settings, there's more, and obviously this sort of thing, you can go very in depth. But a lot of the templates are very, very good, but you can go very in depth. We've got all our actions and templates and connectors. I'll open that window in a minute because we've got so many different things that Microsoft will connect to. So you can use the templates. I would suggest the best place to start from anyone, if you want to do something like an approval process, would be to use the templates and then work on them and then see what they do and make the changes that you need to. When you create this, so let's look at the connectors and then we'll do our last one. This is a list of popular connectors and this is all connectors. So anything that says premium, you pay extra for. You either pay Microsoft for or you pay the other supplier. But as you can see, there's an awful lot that are not. Power BI, OneNote for Business, Twitter, approvals, To Do, Microsoft To Do, Facebook, Google Drive, your own file system in your system, Instagram, Project Online, Slack. It even connects to Box, OneDrive, and Word was there, HTTP, so you can do HTTP calls and requests. So it, as you can see, I'm only on H. There was MailChimp. You can get it to connect to MailChimp. Now, the reason, for example, MailChimp says premium is not that Microsoft charges you extra, you need an extra license from Microsoft. You may have to pay extra to MailChimp. Mandrill's another email system. You can use Microsoft Translate. In that case, I think you do have to pay Microsoft for it. And you can do there's ones that are AI builders as well. So they're building in bots and things like that. So this is going deeper and deeper and deeper all the time with Microsoft. So you can use any of these connectors, you can use any of the templates, and that's all automatic and all by default. Let's just quickly show you the last one. I want to show you as well the emails. Oh, that eventually did make that, so it did eventually run. It's just running a little slowly. I get 3 emails, one's approved, one's rejected, and one's still pending. So that was part of my process to send those emails back with any comments. It was approved by, this is a need email to confirm that the file was approved. This wasn't to say that it's rejected. Don't like this one. So you can put all of that information in there, and now they'll all be here, pending, approved, rejected, and in my document libraries, they'll be showing as pending, approved, rejected. And obviously on lists or on this, you can put metadata, you can put version numbers, you can put whatever you need to do. So all of that is an excellent sort of thing. Just before I move on to the last one I want to do, I want to show you this. When I hit the home button again, you may have seen, and I want to then show you a last process that we did. You may have seen before that there was these approval requests. This is when I get. When you go on to Power Automate, if you're using the approval process, it comes up under your actions, your approvals. So you can respond here. But you can also respond on your mobile device. If you've got Power Automate on your mobile, you get a notification. You can approve in the go. So the approval process is built into Microsoft's system. You don't have to have an extra app for that. It can send an email, and it can also be done here. So there's 3 places that you can approve. You can approve it on the email, and when the email comes through, you've just got boxes and then a box to type the text in. You can approve it on Power Automate itself, or you can approve it on the app. So I could have respond to these here, and it's similar to the email. I'm going to respond to this one. I'm going to decide what to do with it. Choose my comment, please decide. And you can make or reassign. There's another option, send it to someone else. You can open the file to look at it. You can make your decide, and you can do your approvals. You can also see your sent, and you can see all the history of the ones that you've approved and not approved. So last one I want to do is this. I saw this working in a restaurant 2 weeks ago, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, hey, I could use that. Microsoft could do that. They had a QR code. So for example, if you did want to, you could actually scan that QR code right now. It would bring you to this form. You could fill it in, and once you filled this form in, it would actually update it on my SharePoint list. So they had a big board outside, and you scanned this in before you went into the restaurant, and then you filled in your details. So you put in your name, your email address, your phone number, your address, how many people in the party. It submitted it and automatically went through. So I've made this little one last night. Microsoft Forms, again, is part of your Microsoft 365 package. You don't pay any extra for it. You can use this form on mobile. You can use it on desktop. You can change your theme. You can change your settings. There's a copy for the link. There's the QR code. You can embed it on a website, or you can email it out to people as well and turn it into an email automate as well. So that's all of those. It can be multilingual, etc. When that form is filled in, so I've got on here, if I go back to the original site and go home, we've got policies and events there if we wanted to for documents, and I've got a capture list here. Now, what I did with this was I automated the response from Forms. Forms itself sends all that information through to Forms, and you can look at all responses on, if you noticed, there was an option here called responses. So I could go to each of these responses. There was 3 responses. I could look at them all, and I could find out all this information, and I could open them all in Excel. Now that's great, but if I'm getting lots and lots and lots of responses, this is not the best place to go to get that information. The best place that I want it is either on a SharePoint list or on an Excel sheet, primarily probably in a SharePoint list. So what I did is I set up a SharePoint list for it. So if we look down here, we've got those 3 responses. Now, this was a flow. Let's have a look at the flows. We go to My Flows. We go to Capture COVID Details. And I will edit it instead of doing that, and I will show you what we did. One of Microsoft's options, I've left all of Microsoft's template titles in here, was an automatic one saying when a new response is submitted. So which is the form ID? You just drop down your menu and you choose which form you're using. Get the details of the form response. So bizarrely, you have to do that. When a new response is submitted, go and get the details. Fine. We go and get it and take the response ID. Now, Microsoft works with a thing called dynamic data. So the dynamic data for that, if I take that out, which form? Well, I want the COVID details. Which response? Well, the one that we saw up here, the one that we just was done. Then we create an item. Well, what do we want to create? We want to create it in a SharePoint list, which I've already created. I want to put the response ID in as the title. So here we go, dynamic data. You just choose from the list. Time of visit. Well, it automatically, because it's on a form, it automatically captures when the time is. I didn't have to ask people for the date and time. Timestamp of when a new response is submitted. Full name. I list down and do a full name. Address, email, contact number, etc. Now, you can put expressions in. So they've got functions like you would have in Excel or you would have on a database. So it does go much deeper than just the dynamic content. However, dynamic content is the easiest way to go. You could type something in manually. You can put in variables. You can compose stuff and then use it later. I also decided to add a row to a table. So I created a table in Excel. I found it from the list of the location. I found it from the document library. I went and opened the file, because there's the file picker, and you just choose it from your list. And then once you've opened the file, you have to have it as a table, but there it is as a table. And when that runs, it posts and it puts through a list of people who have filled that in, and it puts it on this list. COVID capture, for example. So there's 3. Rich, you didn't do that. Andy did that on your behalf. And also, just to show you what it happens in Excel, it just creates it and it puts the same information in an Excel table. So I created this Excel table the last time it was updated. So you can update tables in Excel. You can post the tables. You can get row information. You can fill rows in. You can do all of that. So that information was put on an Excel sheet as well. So I have done that automatically. That information is captured. However, the government, if I put at the top of my form to say, and I want to show you another one here, I put at the top of my form to say that after 21 days, it's not going to be there. So I've set one up to say delete after 21 days. And what I wanted it to do is go into the list, and if it's more than 21 days, remove it. So we set one up which is called a recurrence. I know we're running out of time here, so I'm setting this up to recur every single day. You can decide when it starts, etc. Go and get items from a SharePoint list. So get all the items. Calculate 21 days before today's date. And then it does this automatically. This applied to each. I didn't have to set up. Microsoft set it up automatically. As soon as I chose to do something with this list, it knows there could be more than one response. So it says do it until each response. So it goes through, gets a value, it does a condition. The condition is it created less than the past time? If it is, delete the item. So I've actually automated a system that it captures people's data as they visit the restaurant or the business, and after 21 days, it automatically deletes them from that list. We're keeping great with data protection because it's being deleted automatically, and we're keeping great to help with the COVID fight and track and trace. And that second one was done with what is called a scheduled flow. You decide when it runs and how often it runs. It could run every hour, it could run every week, it could run every month. Instant is triggered manually. So if we talk about instant ones, I'll show you here. Mostly they're either done by Power Apps or selected items, which is a button on a SharePoint list, or a flow. So an example of that is I've actually on my mobile device, I've created one from a template and adapted it where I take photographs of all my receipts. I put in the details of it, and it automatically takes the image and puts it into OneDrive with a name on it, and it automatically fills in my expenses on an Excel sheet. So I've done that for my mobile. So when we talk about manually trigger, it's a button on a mobile, or it's coming from something like Power Apps or a button from somewhere else. So that is those ones. The last two here, UI and business process. UI is actually, it talks to your computer. So all of these are great because they work with your online platforms. What if you've got an Excel sheet that's an old one on a computer? What if you've got a file system that you want to save to or retrieve from? What if you've got anything other program that doesn't? Well, you use UI and it records like it would record a macro. So it runs virtually on a 64-bit machine or on a web page. So you could actually log into a web page, pass the parameters of your password and get it to log in for you. You can, in one case that I helped the client with, their exports from a database were in an old Excel format, .xls, and Microsoft Automate doesn't like XLS, it only deals with XLSX. So what we did is we introduced a UI flow. It actually took it and saved it out as an XLSX and then worked with it on the rest of the Automate. The last one is business process. This costs, but it actually is a multi-process flow, and it's actually onboarding, so it does lots and lots of process. So it's a whole business application. It's much more complex. It's really powerful what you can do with it, everything that you need to do. For example, as it says here, onboarding and training new employees, and it usually uses the common data service. So either settings that they actually have set up, it's like a database, a data lake as they call it, or you have to then do that. So that's the 5 sort of flows: automated, triggered by the event, triggered manually, done on schedule, record something that actually works on your desktop or a web page, and then the business process flows. Just come back to the screen and give you a couple of examples where I've used it. I've used it in forms that are embedded on websites. Those forms then pass information through, update a planner, update a SharePoint list, and automatically send emails to people. When somebody then marks it as complete in planner, it then sends another email and updates the SharePoint list as well. I've also recently with a client, a caravan site that needs gas safety certificates done 3 months before the expiry date. They've got 485 pitches, and now it is all sent automatically to the clients by email. A 3-month email, a 2-month email, a 1-month email, and they can respond to those emails, and it will automatically trigger the gas safety, or they're doing it themselves. So this is so powerful. It can do simple things like copy something from your Google Drive or your Dropbox to your OneDrive, or from your OneDrive to your SharePoint. It can do more complex things like approval processes, or grab the information from a form and do something with it, or can completely overhaul your whole process of doing automation within your business. And the last thing to say is, if anybody is using SharePoint 2010 on premises, I don't think you will be, but if you were and you've got workflows that are on there, they are being retired. They will stop working from unless on the 365 platform you could have imported them. They will stop working from November. So there's a whole process of people actually moving from 2010 SharePoint 2010 workflows onto Microsoft Power Automate as well. I know it's quick. I know there's an awful lot of stuff that's there. I know people do have to play around with it, but hopefully that's given you an overview of 3 examples. One that's a straight out of the box template, one that's approval process, and then one that's more current and maybe relevant with COVID data capture going to a SharePoint list and being automatically deleted after 21 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, go on, Rich.
No, sorry, I was going to say thank you, Viv. Thank you for a real whistle-top tour of Power Automate. Obviously shows us quite a lot in there to use and potential to use in there. So, but I appreciate it's all been a really quick overview there. So, if anybody's got any questions at all, either unmute yourself or put them in the chat, and we can answer those.
And my suggestion for anybody wanting this, sorry, to just play around with it, but yes, Natalie.
Hello. Is there a quicker way? So, for example, you've got a Word document, blogs. I send all our blogs onto mainly the MD just to sign off. Can I just easily send it to him for approval straight from Word while I'm in Word? Is that a silly question? I don't know.
No, it would be a button one. So if you put it, you can have it that it's you could have, the best way to do that, for example, is to have a OneDrive, and in that OneDrive, anything that you put into the OneDrive automatically gets sent. So just have a folder called blog documents for approval, and just save it into that, and then it will automatically.
Will he get alerted?
He would get a notification by email, and he would get a notification on the Automate bit if he was using that. But he would get an email saying, "Hey, here is," and so you could actually set it that once a new file is put into that folder in OneDrive. So I would set up a folder which is called blog processes for the MD to check post. And then save it straight to there, or drag and drop it into there. That will trigger the Automate. The Automate will then take the details of that file, attach it to an email, and send it to him. And then he would reply, approve or reject, or needs editing. So he doesn't even need to reply with emails to you. It automatically then comes back to you to say it's been approved.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
I must admit now, I'd had the very same thought process looking into it. It's the first time I've seen Power Automate. So you know, for you know, any kind of stuff that we put in the press or blogs, like you say, it'd be really good to kind of get. So if you've got an approval level that you need to work with, it'll work really good with that.
You can set up approval levels of multi-level approval. You can set it up that it goes to 3 different people and it needs approved by all. You can set it up that it does it in order. You can set it up that it can go to 3 people and any of them can approve. There's so many options. We just did a very basic approval to Andy and back, but you can have multiple options. As soon as you choose that approval, type approvals, you get all the options coming up on the menu.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Right, thanks a lot, Viv, for that. It was really good. Thanks, Andy, as well. Just to follow up from this, we have recorded it. I'll send you the YouTube link so you can go back over it again if you've got any kind of bits that you want to cover again. I'll also be using forms as well to send you a feedback form, which I know Nat's used for some of her stuff as well in the past. It's really good, and I like Viv was showing you there with the capturing data. There's so many uses for it, especially in these times as well where you need to capture data. Apart from that, we've got some other courses now which are into September. So we're skipping August, but September will be Microsoft Forms, also Stream, and then after that we do OneDrive and SharePoint, and then we'll probably later in October, because Microsoft are advancing the 365 package and particularly Teams rapidly, we'll do another Teams one with all the kind of almost an update one. So that's it from me. Thank you for attending. Okay, thank you to Viv and Andy, and we'll catch you soon.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Cheers, bye.